It's like, okay. Okay, welcome again guys, another AD Talks, talking demotivation and anxiety in RP. We have two returning guests, Seleuf and, I always forget your character's name, so I'm just going to call you Musical.
That works for me.
But yeah, what have you guys been up to RP-wise or WoW-wise since the last time we had you on? Start whoever you want.
I have been planning a lot and done nothing, so that's...
No.
For me, I've finally ventured into the world of the Horde. I've made a lovely little night elf character called Alriette Duskquill. If you see her, please harass her. Night elf, sorry, Nightborn. Ooh, secret night elf spy in disguise. No.
I can understand how they look similar and all.
Yeah, you know, one's purple and the other one's just a slightly lighter purple.
You just rolled around in some blueberries and it works fine.
just poured the arc wine all over the face. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been involved with. I'm working now and kind of ish getting a guild off the ground. We're gonna see how that works over the next little bit, and it's gonna be an interesting concept, I hope.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're still hashing out the name. I'm kind of like tertiarily involved yet, just because I haven't had time to be like, hey, do you need a hand? Can I help you with stuff? But if you go onto the server forums right now, it's under that Horde Interest Check Special Forces group thing.
Oh, okay.
I was reading about that the other day.
Yeah, I've not yet had a time to like poke Orson and be like, hey, like here's my experience. Do you need help? But it's been kind of cool to chat in the background with all the other guildies. We've decided on a name earlier. We've got that down pat. We got the concept down pat. Went to put the name in. Whoops! Surprise! The name has been taken. So now we're kind of queuing to Blizzard to see if they'll free up the name for us because we really like it.
What was the name?
We've been going back and forth on it. We tried Warforged, then we tried the Warforged, and then the memes started about Titan forging, and it's just kind of a mess now.
I was just thinking of any replacements, but I can't think any. But yeah, welcome aboard again, guys. I mean, let's just dive straight into it. As long as my phone doesn't distract me. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I need to turn my phone off now that you've mentioned it.
How do you find anxiety affects your gaming or RP experience if you experienced it in the past or known someone to experience such?
I find it can be quite difficult to get into something, especially getting into something new, or even getting into something old if there are new elements in it. Like one of the guilds that I want to... I have two guilds that I want to actually make active. One of them has previously been active, but everyone who was in it kind of don't want to be in it anymore, either because they've stopped playing, or they want to play something else, or they're just not feeling the roleplay hype at the moment. So I need to get a whole bunch of new people, which is a very scary prospect. And the other one, it's almost the same thing. It's a guild that I came up with January 2017. So it's been around a while, but I've never done an active recruitment for it. So it's just me and a couple of friends who haven't really, like, it can't really do much with two other people with some of the concepts that I've had. So
yeah. What about you, Musical?
For me, I find these days I've got a better handle on it, but it used to be when I was really anxiety ridden a lot. I really, it's exactly as Seleuf said, I really couldn't do anything I wasn't super comfortable with. So role play and stuff like that, because how I role play, I kind of I role play like I act, I take on the character. So for me, it's a little bit easier to do, but I can't do anything stressful. Like if you'd asked me to tank when I was having like, I guess I'd call it a breakdown. If you asked me to tank or heal when I was having a breakdown, it's just no, absolutely not. I can't do it. Just because for me, that's so much. The stress, the stress of failure is so high. It absolutely just makes me useless at it.
What a lot of it comes down to is it's not so much the actual doing it, it's just the concerns about it not being appreciated or appreciated
Mm-hmm.
or taken the right way or whatever else. That can be what catches a lot of people.
I've never
You
really
become
had
so hyper
that.
aware of everything.
I've never really had that problem with roleplay because to me you've got that sort of you're just wearing a different mask, you know, and you can kind of just hide behind that mask basically.
Oh yeah,
But
like
but specifically with streaming, which I mean it's almost a year now since I started streaming. But
congratulations.
yeah, when I started, I was I couldn't do it by myself. I didn't feel comfortable doing it by myself because I had to have someone there with me, you know.
Mm.
And I wouldn't say it's an extreme form of anxiety. It's just something fairly, you know, basic in the sense, but it's just having that feeling that it's just uncomfortable. You know, you're not good enough for this, or you're not going to be able to do anything, all that kind of stuff. So I can't
For
really.
my part, it's
Go on.
somehow I've managed to. I mean, in a sense, I think I've managed to get over the whole "oh, you're not good enough." I'm like, well, I'll do it anyway. The thing that really scares me is other people being like, "oh, you're not good enough," or "don't
Oh
come
god,
back
yeah.
here," or
That's the
flaming,
worst.
or trolling, or bullying, or stuff like that. That's
Oh
the
god,
stuff
yeah.
I'm afraid of.
Yeah, just like that you become so hyper aware of everything that you're so worried about like even like like just standing still and like someone going, "What are you doing? What are you standing there? I don't know." Ah!
Like I have no issues with like logging on to, for example, my gnome and running around saying, "My, you're a tall one. Hello there. What's going on?" But this one time I took my gnome up to some role players and they were like, "Get out of town or we'll murder you." And I was like, "Okay."
Whoa.
I
Wow.
was,
Super
must have,
extreme.
I must have approached the wrong people, but now I'm just gonna log off and go have a cry.
Something
Yikes.
cathedral?
Give me their names, I'll murder them. We'll get a group of gnomes to do it, just to you know rub salt into the wind. Yeah, I've never really got it with roleplay though. I mean, is there anything that you do, like for me, for example, when I said that when I wanted to try and start streaming properly, I kind of always had a handicap beside me, like a person who kind of helped me go through it, you know, playing games with them, whatever. Is there anything that you kind of go to help you ease into roleplay and find it easier accessible?
Drink. Exactly. No, I'm kidding.
That's one way.
I would say have a friend with you. Like if you can have a friend with you, have a friend with you, because at least there'll be one person on your side, and if things go to shit, you two can like go somewhere else and do something else. Like, even if it's just like, okay, that's enough trying to roleplay for tonight. Let's just go spam a low-level dungeon and murder a bunch of stuff for stress relief with a friend. I mean, you know, everything's better with friends.
That's
I
true.
think that's very true. And I think as well, knowing your character, even if you haven't fully fleshed out your character or anything like that, if you just have a solid idea of what you're going for with them and keep that in mind. Like I have Pinterest boards for my character, so if I'm ever feeling a bit, you know, I don't know if I can do them justice or whatever, I always go back to that and sort of reground myself in their inspirations. And I find that, you know, if I feel more comfortable with where they're at, I find it a lot easier to get into RP with them as well.
I know a few people who do that with Pinterest or Tumblr, or they just have
Some
like
people prefer music, so they have like playlists and things,
Yeah.
and that's how they get into the feel of them. You know, it's really
playlists on
works
Spotify,
for
or
you.
just a folder on their computer with a bunch of
Yeah.
keywords and pictures and whatnot.
Exactly, or quotes, or even like stories or something. If there's a particular section of a story, you know, something that basically helps you get into that kind of mindset. I think sometimes if you're more grounded in that, it can help alleviate some of the concerns and the stress around it.
My problem is I'm really bad at taking notes. It's just I come up with a character concept and I start playing it, and then I just trust my own brain to remember how the heck I did it. And then after a few years of leaving it on the shelf, I'm like, how the heck? Who even was this? Ah, shit.
See, I take notes sometimes, but funnily enough, when it comes to roleplay, it's stuff that I can remember easily enough. What's going on with my characters, you know, like what did I say that my character, where does my character come from or whatever, and I just have it memorized in my head. But with Ursula, did take quite a few notes, because the further I delved into it, the more complicated the story got.
It, especially I find when you start to get into playing, not just like eldritch old characters like elves, but even just older characters in like their 30s and 40s, for like humans or orcs, it can be a lot for some people to kind of keep in their brain all at once. So at some point, even if it's just like a little like Word document, it's good to like jot a couple keynotes down.
Yeah, you can get little add-ons to do it if you prefer to keep it in game and stuff like that as well. Especially if you've multiple characters, you know what one knows and what the other doesn't, and things like that.
I actually did a very silly thing. I made a text document for my orc, my one and only orc. You'd think I'd remember anything about him. But I made a little text document with just a couple of notes for him. And then I lost that text document.
Oh, jeez.
But I remembered the basic outlines and stuff, so I started role-playing him again. The only thing I didn't remember, I thought, was his clan. But it doesn't matter that much now, because, he's from Jan, or one of those clans, I'm sure. Then I found the text document again, and he was actually way older than I thought he was. He was like in his 50s. I'd been role-playing him as his 40s.
Oh, yeah, I've done that before. I did. I think I had a 10-year stretch where I played, like a 10-year RL stretch where I played the same character. And one day I kind of went along in my head, I think it was in Mists, where I kind of plotted along in my head. I was like, how old is this character really? And I found I'd like undershot one or two wars in particular, so he was almost in his 70s or his 80s at that point in the game.
So yeah,
I've
notes.
actually though retconned the orc to be in his 40s now, because he's done more in his 40s than he has as a 50-year-old something. So it just made more sense.
So yeah, you take like notes, and obviously you take friends with you. Is there anything that
That's a very good idea, is take friends with you. If you have someone that you can take with you, absolutely do that.
And if you don't have someone, then try to find someone.
Yeah, try and find someone.
Find someone
You
out
could
of
just put
character.
like a message in general or something.
Yeah, just start chatting with somebody. Like, it might actually be easier to start talking to somebody out of character even. Just because there's less pressure to be in character and know your story and all that stuff. It might be easier to just say, hey, how you doing? I'm curious about roleplay, or I want to do some roleplay. What's your guild about? Is it a roleplay guild and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so make an out-of-character connection with somebody.
So yeah, forming connections, taking notes tend to be the ways that you guys sort of ease into things, right? Is there anything else that you would mention on top of that that would help you ease into the situation, really?
Honestly, and I say this as someone who over the last couple of weeks has kind of been re-educated on a few things. Probably the simplest thing, and often the most ineffectual thing to tell people who do suffer from clinical anxiety, is jump into it. Because it's hard to do. It is incredibly hard to just say, yeah, just jump into it, man. I can't. Just jump into it.
There's no way you can break down that advice to make it seem less...
No, there really isn't.
Rash.
But
it's not. You just have to...
Yeah, exactly. But on a certain level, it is true to an effect. One of my friends does go through that, and he did used to roleplay really prolifically before our server community kind of fell apart on the US side. And I asked him one day, man, how do you do it? You used to just hate role-playing and talk with people. He's like, man, I just got tired of it and jumped into it. I just did it.
One of the things that my CBT therapist used to work through with me was, she's like, well, what's the worst that could happen? And I'd answer her, and she's like, and you just work through all the worst possible cases scenarios, and then you ask yourself, how likely is that to happen? It's probably not all that likely that someone's going to jump down your throat and get seriously OOC raging mad at you just because you approach them in character and things like that, despite the fact that we think it is. But when you sort of step back and think to yourself, what is the worst that could happen? It's not really that bad. You know, and it might help you sort of put it in perspective and make it a bit easier to jump into it then, when you know that at the end of the day, you can just log out.
Mm-hmm.
if it does. If you start feeling really, really bad about it, you can just log out, and that's possibly the worst that could happen.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, you just go, character wasn't for me, guild wasn't for me. No skin off my nose.
All right.
I feel like a couple more bits of advice that are probably like common sense or something, but it's like one would be to like just brush up a bit on the lore that you're going to be dealing with. Like, are you playing a night elf? Make sure you know at least the basics of their lore, for example. And there was something else, but I've forgotten it now.
I'd say the best way to make sure you know the basics of lore now is the Chronicles books as well, by the way. Just to tell you guys, because there has been a lot of things that they've retconned and changed again. So
even I still only have the first volume, and I was really surprised at even some like the fundamental universal changes they've made to the World of
whole
Warcraft.
magic page where they outlay all the different types of magic and things.
Yeah.
Oh, that was beautifully done.
it was, yeah.
I really liked that. I always had kind of thought of it was all an offshoot of either arcane or druidism or light, but the way they've laid it out now is so much more understandable.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, is there anything that's helped you mostly, you know, personally with situations like this? Like, what stood out for you the most that got the ball rolling for you, basically?
Aside from bringing friends,
Yeah.
jumping in.
Just jumping in.
Just doing it.
Taking a bit of time to unhype myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
like,
So the breakdown, as Meraki mentions, what's the worst that could happen, basically?
kind of.
Break down all the concerns and
I,
worries.
yeah.
And
Well, I
step
mean,
back from them and
I
sort of
actually suffer from panic anxiety, which is like my own physical reactions to even something like excitement. Heart starts beating faster, breathing increases, I get kind of sweaty and trembling.
a very physical
My
reaction.
brain misinterprets that as I'm about to fucking die.
Oh Jesus.
So I've actually had to train myself in mellowing out. Like if I'm going to go to the movies with some friends, going to the cinema like really stresses me out. So I have to completely ignore that I am going to the cinema. I have to ignore what movie I'm about to see. I have to ignore how excited I might be to see whatever movie it is. I have to ignore all of that and just tell myself over and over, I'm going to hang out with some friends, because that I know, that is familiar, and that has all of the exits. Being locked, or not locked, but, you know, kind of trapped in a cinema for 2 hours to watch a movie, and if you go to the bathroom or anything, you're going to miss the movie and you'll have wasted money because you missed the experience. That kind of thing really, really stresses me out. So I have to not think about that at all. And so my friends are like, oh yeah, this is great, this is wonderful, aren't you excited? And they're like, yeah.
It's so relatable because it's just how all those tiny little insignificant things become like huge, big, legitimate concerns.
Oh yeah.
And so I've been like kind of training myself to just mellow out and not get hyped over anything. So the plus side is when a new game comes out and it's like pre-order, early access, and all that stuff, I don't fall for it because I don't get hyped.
Yeah.
But I can still get worried. For example, this Night Elf guild that I want to get off the ground, I'm worried about doing it wrong because it's a pretty heavy concept, and I want to play it very seriously, and I'm worried that I will just muck it all up. And I mean, the worst thing that could happen would be that I'd have to ask everyone that I interacted with, can we just forget what happened and retcon it? But I don't want to have to do that, so it's like, ugh.
It happens. Let's have a look. What advice would you give to other people struggling over anxiety in roleplay? That's obviously to jump into it, but is there any more, you know?
Probably a lot of the stuff we've already said, like go through the process of thinking what's the worst that can happen and how likely is that actually to happen. Try to mellow out and not get too jittery about it.
I think one of the big things as well is find what works for you,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of different people will have different ways of dealing with things and different, things that'll help them process and
Absolutely.
whatever else.
Yeah, exactly. Like with the big thing is, and it as an old role player, no, as a guy who's role played for a while, the one of the things I hate saying, but does ring true in a certain case, is role play what you feel works for you. If you're playing like this big, you want to play a big, strong buff orc or Draenei, go for it. If that gives you that little bit extra calmness or feeling of assuredness, absolutely go for it.
All right. I was going to say I'm not sure if this would work, but you guys can obviously talk over me about it anyway. But what Seleuf mentioned earlier with making a friend. Oh, see, there is often in cities you find players sometimes standing in a corner or gazing at the stars or something by themselves, and it's always easier to approach a single person than it is a crowd, which might make it easier
Yeah.
to sort of
Mhm.
engage in that role
And,
play.
and a good idea or a good tip or whatever might be to have a look at their TRP. Because a lot of days people don't read TRPs, and I think when you do, everyone sort of appreciates you reading them. So if you read their TRP and just shoot them a whisper saying, "Hey, I liked your TRP," or ask them something about it or something like that, and then you engage them out of character. And I think when you engage someone out of character and you find out that they're not, you know, sitting there poised, ready to jump down your throats, it can be a bit easier to engage them in character.
Oh yeah, like the best thing I think I've probably done for my role play in a while is on my character, on my role play characters here on the EU, in my TRPs and my MRPs, I've done up like little role play prompts that, well, if you don't know how to approach a character, well, you may know them from you may know Alriette from the Nightborn Rebellion. She has a way with words, or you might know generic soldier guy number 21 because he once punched that thing directly in the face. But like just little things like that can also go a long
Yeah,
way
so help
into
people
breaking
approach
the ice.
you, which will help that from the other side as well.
Hmm.
Yeah. Are there any types of situation where you found anxiety struck you hard, and made it more difficult to RP the situation you were RPing? Like what made you, what triggered you into that sort of state of mind, basically?
Definitely, definitely any sort of like serious personal relationship between role play characters. Uh, I- it's I don't know. It's I shouldn't say that no RP romance lasts forever because I've seen quite a few that go into multiple stretches of years until characters are retired. Um, but just with that, especially as some role players like to do, some role players love to be, no, I don't want to know you out of character. I just want to know your character. I don't care about you. I want to know your character. How some people get like that. It can be very anxiety driving to kind of go, okay, if I misstep in this, I could screw up someone else's character because I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know what they're in it for and what what kind of their aims are and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like some people are in it because, oh, well, my character's attracted to yours because you just have a gigantic magical dongle that we've got to open the timeways with or something. But
Maybe
you're
in character relationships or something we should talk about another time.
oh, absolutely. But just there's a lot there's a lot there to unpack with that.
Yeah, we can talk about that, and it sort of works for her as well. I mean, I don't have anxiety problems with that person. I just have trust problems because the player, like you mentioned, the player isn't always communicative, and obviously it's a part of your character's story, and it can be a bit.
It's for a lot of characters, it's quite a huge part of their
Yeah.
story because if you think about it, your most important relationships in your life kind of dictate a lot of it.
It matters
Mhm.
basically. It matters for the choices you make
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I can
Exactly.
understand how
changes a
it
lot.
kind of can spiral down into some sort of, getting that sort of anxiety over it. What about you, Seleuf? Is there anything that sort of made you, pop out?
Yeah, there've been a few times, like when I was told get out of town before we murder your gnome. There was another really awful moment when I took my undead blood elf into a tavern and had a conversation with another blood elf who was like, "Oh, you're a blood elf who died to the scourge. What a fucking loser!" And she just tore into my character. Like,
Holy
hello,
cow.
90% of our people died to the scourge. It's not surprising.
Oh my
God.
goodness.
I should be laughing at that because that was a problem for you, but I just find it funny.
And like, she just tore into my character and really, really tried to break her down. And I was like,
God.
my goodness, learn your lore or something, or are you just a troll? Then I found out that that person was actually a troll who just wants to push everyone's buttons.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's one person I'll be avoiding.
That was an unfortunate encounter.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. Weird and
unfortunate
unfortunate.
unfortunate encounters like that unfortunately do happen, and
They do, yeah.
it takes a bit to just be like, okay, you know what, that happened, I'm gonna move on, I'll find someone else to role play with and stay the heck away from that person.
Exactly. It can be quite, because I think we're all predispositioned to think that we're in the wrong, so it can be quite, hard to break out and think, well, maybe they were not behaving entirely correctly, and maybe we just need to let them do whatever it is they're doing over there, and we can go do our thing elsewhere.
Blood Elf lore is the first lore that I learned, pretty much, and it's one that I've been keeping up to date with. So I was pretty certain, even in the moment, that I was not the one in the wrong here, but it was still a very, very unpleasant experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the point where even just talking about it is making me shake.
No, that's fair enough. I was going to say, what was I going to say? Taking a step back from that might help at times as well, just before you fall into that mindset of panicking. As it's easier a bit easier to say it than do it, but taking a step back and kind of just realizing the situation isn't really real, basically, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And you can sort of walk away from it at
You
any
can
point
leave
you want.
at any
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
That's an important thing that
eventually
I
I
think
just
role
walked
players need to
away
learn.
and went and talked to some friends about the experience and got some pats.
People get very hung up on the, oh, but it's in C, so, he wouldn't leave, so he can't leave. And I'm like, it's a character in a game. If you were sitting at a board game table and you started having a panic attack, it would be okay for you to just get up and walk away.
Yeah.
So it's okay for you to get up and walk away from this game too.
But my immersion. No, I don't care.
People's immersion will recover, I promise you.
Especially that one. Are there any situations that you find easily more approachable than others?
When there are less people around, because it's so easy to drown in a ton of text. So I prefer when there's less people, like 2 to 5 maybe.
Alright. Anything with you, Musical?
Honestly, just like, weirdly enough, like really heavy soap opera-esque things for some reason. Just
Isn't that the majority of roleplay though?
You see, I was really a blood elf all along. The purple dye. No, but no, just for some reason, just really, really weird, out there, dramatic roleplay really seems to center me. Like, it could be like, we have some bad news. Your mother's third cousin twice removed was killed by an alliance task force. Oh God, what? I don't know why. That just instantly just has me like, oh wow, okay.
Has you hooked and distracted, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just like, this is really silly, and I can get behind that.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Alright, let's, I mean, we've spoken a bit about anxiety, let's move on to the motivation part of this AAD talks. Have any of you ever felt demotivated, and what was it like for you?
I feel demotivated right now. No. Yeah, no, it's just, once in a while you get into that rut, and it's just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do anything. What's the point? Why are we here? Why can't I get a vicious war saddle instead, Blizzard? Like, what am I doing with my life? Like, it just feels like that, honestly, where it's just like, okay, I'm tapped out of ideas. I don't want to do anything.
Sometimes as well, I think you can really, really want to roleplay, but you
Oh
just
yeah,
can't get
it's
into your
just
character or get into the story. You just can't like bridge that gap.
oh yeah, it's just like stuck. It's
Yeah,
just like the
exactly. You
worst
just
thing
feel
to wait
stuck.
past. Yeah.
What about you, Seleuf?
Pretty much what was just said.
All right.
As I said, I have like lots of ideas. I have tons of characters, but actually getting on and finding the right people to roleplay with and building up the guilds basically from scratch. It's so much that I just go, no, it's too much. I can't do that. No, no.
Demotivated is something, honestly, I feel often, and as I mentioned before, because it's been a year, and I had a little like post where I said that thank you for the boost of confidence and continuous support. If it wasn't for other people, I'm always demotivated to do stuff because I don't think I'm good enough for it, or I just can't do it. It's just like a brick wall basically. And I mean, if it wasn't for you guys who continuously push me and motivate me to continue doing this stuff, I probably would have stopped a year ago. Same with the events and everything I do. There's been a lot of I'm someone who likes to create community events for people as well, and there's been a lot that I've scrapped due to demotivation. But a lot of the times it's others that help motivate me to do it basically.
I can absolutely relate to that.
And yeah, it's pretty much like a brick wall, and you just have to kind of force it down, or have someone help you force it down to reach the other end of it.
Yeah.
How do you think demotivation affects you in your RP basically?
It stops it.
Yeah, I've kind of got to agree with that one. When you just don't feel inclined to push, it just doesn't. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't.
Do you ever feel
As
frustration
a
though?
GM,
Go on.
when I tend to get demotivated, it tends to, because I also like, my anxiety tends to be social anxiety, so I have a nightmarish fear of disappointing people. So I tend to turn up even when I have absolutely no desire or ability or brain power to do it. But so I find that when I get really demotivated, my RP I'll still be there, I'll still be online, I'll still be RPing, but it'll be literally just whatever needs to be done for me to meet my obligations to other people, if that makes sense. My personal storylines is what I'm probably trying to better say, is where it lacks. My character doesn't really go anywhere personally outside of what he's putting together for other people, and I find that's where it would affect me.
Yeah. So instead of
Quite a bit
writing like
more.
more intricate emotes, you kind of
Exactly,
into,
it's
like,
just sort of
slash wave and sort of thing.
getting from A to B, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it as much. It feels more like a chore.
Yeah, where it just kind of feels like I don't need to be here. This really isn't for me right now. Yeah.
It knocks out the fun towards it. I was going to say something, but I kind of forgot now. Trying to think.
Fuse, it's because you're demotivated. You need to be more motivated to think harder on these things.
I do. I probably need someone literally whipping me to, motivate me into things.
No, let's not get into X-rated stuff.
Here we go. I often.
Yeah,
When
this isn't the catacombs under the cathedral. This isn't that kind of Twitch podcast.
what I wanted to say is, do you ever? Because I personally do. Do you ever feel like frustration when you try actually force yourself to do something when you're demotivated? Any like sort of I don't want to do this, but I do sort of thing. Like you're
Sorry,
kind of
joke popped into my head. Yeah. Once in a while, where it's like, there's this opportunity. I really should pursue it, but I just don't. I don't care enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had more that there's an opportunity, I should pursue it. I do care, but I just don't have the energy.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, how do you normally try and get around demotivation? And is there something that you use to try reboot your brain into some sort of a creative mindset for whatever it is you're doing in RP?
Drink heavily? No.
Drink is the true cure to everything.
I think the TDLR for this whole podcast is just going to be alcohol solves everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, probably the best advice I ever got from a veteran role player was whatever you feel like doing in role play at that moment, do something absolutely crazy opposite.
Really?
I once was, it's probably about 4 or 5 years ago now. I was role playing a troll druid. And he was straight laced. He was like, if you could picture like a Catholic lower priest, that was pretty much it. He's just like, oh yes, man, praise the Lord and this, praise the Lord. You will praise the Lord. He was just very much all low all the time, and you can only get so much of that before you really just don't care anymore. And it's just like, yeah, this is great. I've beat the hell out of him for 5 months. I'm pretty done with this. And the best advice I got was every character at one point is going to do just something completely off the friggin' wall. Go do it. So he, there was, we had a Koshharg festival on that US server, and he showed up, and it started, the usual praise the Lord, and then someone put alcohol in him, and it just turned into this weekend of crazy drunken Loa praising activity.
Yes.
And it was fun. It was a spice of fresh air that kind of gave me new energy of,
refreshing.
expansion horizon. This is really nice. This is who this character kind of is. And just by doing that something that was new, it kind of injected me a little bit with energy.
Oops. Kind of Hearthstone into roleplay.
For my part, I have I have so many characters that if I get tired of one, I just log another one. Like, and you may think, well, eventually you'll run out of characters. I have over 130, so I'm fine for a while. But I have done some interesting things with some of them, like just to spice it up and have the character itself not be stale, because I do still like each character. One of the ones that was my main from Wrath of the Lich King all the way until Mr. Pandaria, I think. No, even in Mr. Pandaria. He was my main through several expansions, a Death Knight named Koraneth. Sometimes I would do something a little bit different with him, like he would laugh or he would tell a joke, and this freaked everybody out, and that was hilarious. Because everyone was used to him being, the typical stoic Death Knight who doesn't say many words, and if you tell him a joke, he'll just glare at you. And then one day he told a joke, and people were freaked the fuck out, and they were like, we should run away.
Bad news.
So you're starting to fall into the rot brain category. Yeah. Is there any resources, skills or tips or tricks you'd recommend if they are like struggling with it,
Big one.
I'm very bad at that.
I think the big one, if you're like struggling for like trying to get your motivation back through sheer ideas, or you're looking for something new to spice up your roleplay, definitely just Google RP like class and race guides. I find the EU in particular has some of the best class guides on their forums, especially for Death Knights Druids. On our server, we've got the Arcane Mage Guide. So many good ideas in all of those to kind of push horizons and come up with new ideas.
Talk to your friends as well, even if you're just reminiscing about stuff you've done in the past or talking about how certain characters feel about your character. That I find can sometimes lead you to other ideas for stories and plots that can re-inspire you to stuff.
I've found with the frustration part that sometimes forcing yourself into that sort of whatever it is you want to do but can't be bothered to do is not always the best thing to force yourself into it, because you'll find yourself becoming more demotivated and hating, let's say in this particular case, hating roleplay, because it's putting you in this mindset where you just don't want to be there, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Where it
exactly.
feels more like a chore than a hobby.
Exactly. It
Yes.
shouldn't be an obligation. It should be a privilege. You know, it should be
Exactly.
something you enjoy.
So sometimes it
Yeah.
just helps stepping back. Maybe you find some creative influences for books, movies, other games
Yeah,
really
hit
as
up your
well.
sources.
Yeah, just playing other games helps as well sometimes, because there's so many other games that have characters that you sometimes get a connection to and obviously inspired from, really.
Yeah, I find that as well. Like sometimes people have come to me and say, "Oh, your character's really like this character," and I'll go and watch the thing, and it'll give me a whole new lease of life for that character because that, you know, it's just inspiring to see those kind of things that are thematically relevant. So just sort of pay a little bit more attention and find the things that inspire you, so that you know where to go back to when you're
Just
next
don't
having a slump.
literally name your character Geralt of Rivia or something like that.
Yeah, maybe not so on the nose.
Yeah. Especially for
It's okay
Guild
to be
officers
inspired by, but a direct rip-off is another matter entirely.
Oh,
Let's-
yeah.
Let's be honest, you can roleplay whatever you want, but you won't get the attention you desire from everyone if it is something like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing too for guild officers as well, roleplay guild officers are some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. Definitely know when to switch off and do something else to kind of
Yeah, there's
curb
a difference
that demotivation.
between your own personal plots and between stuff you're doing to further guild plots, and make
Yeah.
sure you're getting a balance.
Or even just like sheer roleplay, because as much as I love roleplay, there's going to be a breaking time where it's like, yeah, maybe I just want to sit here and scream at a random battleground group for a couple hours. You can't, as much as we all love roleplay, once in a while you kind of have to inject something just a little bit different to keep it fresh.
Yeah, definitely. Even not just reading books outside, but I mean your friends. I know my friends tend to write shorts. Sometimes reading their stories kind of helps you get back into that mindset as well.
Mhm.
Because obviously,
Or write your own,
yeah, even
if it's
yeah,
crap, and even if you show no one, just write something.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
just writing.
Google story prompt. Just find one that catches your eye and write something.
Yeah.
See what happens.
I mean, how do you handle communicating with others when you have either demotivation of anxiety or if you're unfortunate enough to have both at once, you know?
Drink heavily.
Okay. Well, there's your answer. That's the unsee advice.
Mm. If I know the people that I'm going to be role-playing with, I might kind of give them a little heads up out of character and say, hey, I'm not feeling so hot today. I might not be all there, or I might drop out early, but I still want to try.
Yeah.
And I find that in most cases, people appreciate the trying, even if you don't stick with it
Yeah,
throughout.
even if you only come around for a few minutes or whatever.
Mm.
Plus, I think it might make you feel like you've done something and like you've contributed, and you might feel better about it. And more, not even accomplished, but you know what I mean? You might feel like you've got something out of the evening, and it wasn't. Because I know if I don't do anything all evening, then I end up feeling even worse because I've wasted my evening.
Yeah, and it's better to dip your toes even if you don't go diving off the dive board.
Yeah.
You at least dipped your toes and had a little bit of fun at least.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
And if you have a few people that know that you sometimes struggle and whatever, then those people are probably going to be fine with you if you say, listen, I'm not too hot today, but I want to come and hang out anyway. And, you know, they'll
And if
make
they're
it
not
work.
fine, they're not true friends.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Find some new friends.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing for me is don't feel forced to do anything. At the end of the day, you can kind of just relax, really. I mean, laying down even helps sometimes. Really. You don't really need to be doing anything. You shouldn't feel obligated
Yeah.
to do anything.
And if you do get into a corner where you're really anxious and the current ongoing RP is making you feel even worse about it, and you can, you know, feel your chest tightening and all those things you said, like with your hands getting sweaty and all that kind of thing, just have your character go to the toilet. They need to go to the toilet, so you need to step out. Have them walk around the corner for 5 minutes, and just give yourself 5 minutes.
Yeah, take a breather, really. When it comes to anxiety, when it comes to demotivation, just don't force yourself to do anything, because you're just going to
just
further
wait.
demotivate yourself. Find the inspiration in
yeah.
other things, basically.
Yeah,
And
and the inspiration will usually always come, and sometimes if it doesn't, maybe you just need to consider if maybe that
I mean-
character's story is just finished.
Big example for me, I've been saying I'm going to do a campaign for a while now, and kind of the motivation just hit me recently, and I'm obviously going through with it now. You know, just planning everything for it. Didn't force myself to do it any time sooner because I was not feeling as bothered to do it. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, unless we have anything else to add on the subject, I think that's it for now, really. Take the silence as a no.
Sorry.
I've got
I
nothing.
was replying to
but,
JT in chat. We're talking about pooping.
I was trying to, just as a little last anecdote, I was trying to roleplay my Night Elven guild a bit more, and then BFA hit and the tree burnt and everyone was off to Kultiras and Zandalar, and it was like, well, shit, what happens now with what I was doing? What would be the in-character thing for my Night Elves to do? And I realized the in-character thing for them would be to stay and fight in Darkshore. And then there was like, well, all the role players are going everywhere else. But now role play is starting to come back to Kalimdor. I've seen a couple of Night Elf and Worgen guilds.
Yeah.
That's Night Elf and Worgen guilds, not Night Elf and Worgens, but Night Elf and Worgen guilds coming back to Kalimdor and doing their role play on the western shore of Kalimdor, having their base in Stone Talon and working all the way up and down the coast. And that's exactly where my guild would be. So I'm going to be trying to make contact with them and find them and roleplay with them as a way to get back into things and bring things up with my stuff.
It's probably going to be even more of that as well as it gears up for 8.1 because that's the new Warfront, isn't it?
Yeah.
If
Yes.
there isn't one, yeah, I'm pretty sure there'll be a campaign designed around Darkshore.
Actually, only pick up from there.
Yeah, but otherwise, I did mention in I think 3 or so Discords that at the end of each Discord or majority of the AD talks even, we're going to try spotlight different creators of Argent Dawn and what they have that you can go check out basically. And in this case, Seleuf is the one that we're
Seleuf.
giving a spotlight to. Seeing as she's here, she can
The Floofy Loofy.
she can
The Floofy Loopy.
she can suggest it, suggest where to find her, where to go see her things, if you want to take the stage.
So, yeah, in World of Warcraft, it would be that I'll be trying to hang around Stone Talon Mountain with my Nightwalkers of the Vale, the Night Elven Guild, who are... they've been a bit of a secret cult for a while, a good while, because it hasn't been very prominent in lore that recognizing the shadow of Elune, that the moon goes through these phases and there's both light and dark. So I thought it would be interesting to make a guild that kind of builds on that and works with this concept of basically in-character discipline priests, or priestesses of Elune, as it were. And very traditional, except for this one thing where I thought it didn't, it was sort of a bit of a subversion of regular Night Elf lore and roleplay, so they were a secret cult. But apparently in 8.1, this idea is getting validated or something. The Shadow of Elune is going to get more interest and recognition from a lore perspective, so this seems like a good time to pick it up and make the Nightwalkers a little more public, a little more open, a little more, yeah, we exist, we've been here a while, thanks for joining the club kind of thing. Yeah. Or however you want to formulate that. So
I always saw disciplined priests as sort of like yin and yang sort of thing. Can't have shadow without light, and can't have light without shadow. I mean, what about your art stuff? Where can people find you for your vlogs and your art?
For all of that, just Google Seleuf, Seleuf. You Google that, you find all my stuff. My Twitter, my DeviantArt, my Instagram, my YouTube, my Twitch, all of it. Because that is my name, or that's my online name. I turned it into a bit of a brand. And that's, you'll find pretty much everything there. Except for the World of Warcraft stuff, which goes by different names. The Nightwalkers of the Vale being one, and the other being the Crimson Sun Brigade, led by the Death Knight Kraneth Dawnfire, which is a faction-neutral paramilitary brigade aimed at the defense of Azeroth. That's the other thing that I want to try to bring up again and And some people might recognize those names. Crimson Sun Brigade has a bit of a legacy over on Steamweedle Cartel, and I've made a clone of the guild on Argent Dawn. The two guilds will, technically 4 guilds because it's on both factions, will work as one cohesive story. People might also know the name Koranith because I wrote the Death Knight guide, how to roleplay a Death Knight. And then I ripped off that format to make how to roleplay a Demon Hunter. So yeah, those are my things. Seleuf, Koranith, Crimson Sun Brigade, and Nightwalkers of the Vale.
Yeah, I've linked Celia's Twitch there, so if you guys want to check out some of the videos, I think there's some VODs there that you can spot, and obviously give her a follow.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining. Obviously this is a touchy subject. I like to think we just brushed over the surface of it.
Yeah.
As always, thank you for following. Thank you for continuous support. This is going to be uploaded on YouTube. There's Discord that you can join. Also, AD Creators Discord if you're not in it yet. You should join that.
Is it linked below?
I should probably link that below. I will.
You should link it below.
I'll link it. I'll link it below. I'll start linking it below. I'll give the details on that in a moment. Actually, I mean, it should really come at the end and spotlight creep. But you know what? I'm gonna be greedy. Yeah, AD Creators. If you have any questions and answers whilst I'm actually doing that, go ahead. You can toss them in the chat. Yeah, Crimson Compass. Really, it's what can I say? It's like a piratey campaign, basically. Undead pirates rising from the depths of the ocean due to their blood being bound to a compass, and
There's gonna be so many pirates.
the story behind it is that they used to work in unison, these 3 admirals, but the greed and power kind of overcame, and they fought each other until they basically wiped each other out. But obviously they've been reawakened and they're seeking out the compass again, and there's going to be a lot of war at sea. And well, I can't really do the events at sea, but it's that kind of mindset that these undead hordes of like pirates have been attacking Alliance and hordes, and they're heading towards Desolus, which might be quote unquote the area where the compass is, but who knows. But they're at the moment at each other's throats trying to get the keys, and there's 3 different keys to be able to reach that. We do have a pre-event as well that Fielane is in on as well, which
Yes.
I'm
Dust off the pirates.
quite excited for it. It's going to be a little I'll let people find out soon, because we should have that up by the end of the week, and people can check it out. It should be on the forums.
And I'll be trying to join that thing in January with the pirate stuff, with Crimson Sun Brigade
Yeah, should
on
be
the neutral side.
should be fun. Yeah, Myrmidon has been listed neutral. I'm surprised no one has questioned it yet since we've been pro alliance. But yeah, thanks guys.
They just want to hang out with the sexy Death Knight. That's clearly what it.
Oh, baby, you stop my heart.
Maybe literally. No.
Quite literally.
Please, not the axe.
Alright, that's another thing off. You know what, next week we'll touch on that character relationships for next AD talks. And we'll see who we can find to, step in for that.
Ooh, I've got some good ones.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Should be fun then.
I think I've got some people.
Alright, yeah, thanks for coming guys.
Lovely to be here.
Thanks for watching guys.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you guys for hanging out and watching.
Yeah. Alright, see you guys.
Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.